Hello, 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 everyone. This is Dr. David coming to you from the White Studio in the NLP Powerhouse. And this is kind of my first time doing this from this room without a premiere or something like that. So we'll just see if everybody kind of shows up to say hi. Let me check in on here on our. Oh, I got 10 people. Chats are available. Say hi. Tell us where you're checking in from. Tell us your name and where you're checking in from. There's Alana and Lindsay and Pedro and Charles. Brick T, how you be? Lindsay's from Connecticut and Pedro's from Portugal, Barbados. Very good, very cool. So listen, hey, I have a Saturday afternoon and some free time, and I was just in the mood to mingle. So, oh wow, lots of people checking in. Very cool. So listen, for the next, I don't know, 30, 60, 90 minutes or so, you got me. What do you want to know about? What questions do you have? Let me see if I can make the chat section a little bit bigger. So, like, your chat sections are. Alvaro says the fucking doctor. Almost wishing I did. John O'Brien checking in from Scotland. Welcome. Sun Peach 321. Hello. We're first webinar coming from Western New York. Charles from Denver. Martine says, hey. Vlad from DC. Sunil is from Toronto. Let's see. Did I miss anybody? I don't know. Power Incarnate is checking in from Mexico. Right on. And Martinez from the south of France. Man, lots of international folks. I'm so excited. Cynthia's checking in from Tacoma. Robin, hey, Master Snyder. Right on. All right. So Brick T says, can you not use technical terms like saying people are earth metal? Brick, you're going to have to give me a little bit more background on that. I'm not exactly sure what the context is. It sounds like a face reading or Chinese medical question. Manuel, hey, man, this is the perfect time. Well, thank you, Manuel. I do my best. Laura, hey, Laura. Cynthia was just listening to another video of mine. Strange, the Google works in mysterious ways. And I put on my cool shade so I don't burn out my retinas. So what do you think? This is what my studio looks like when I don't have a virtual background up. What do you think? David, what's the most important tip in attracting women? The most important, the important thing, is that you both have fun. You know, one of the things that, it's a great question because every time I run an attraction workshop, and I only do, by the way, for those of you who are interested in attraction, it is a big part of Planet David, that whole concept, but we don't do like classes for guys and classes for girls. When we do an attraction class, it's co-ed. In other words, you have men right next to women and you get to practice and interact and really learn to understand how the undergender operates. Because if you really, really want to understand things, you've got to experience things and real world feedback from the other person's perspective. But one of the things, and I'm just prefacing that a little bit, because the question is that whenever you meet somebody, we talk a lot about soulmates and criteria and values and emotional bonding checklists and things like that. If there is no fun when you're together, especially after the first one or two times, you're never going to get to any of the other stuff. It's like when you look at a person's dating profile, and we'll use a male-female dynamic just because that's conventional, right? And you look at their profile and it says, I want a partner who is brave, loyal, thrifty, reverent, must love dogs and drink red wine. All those things are important, but not nearly as important as the one thing that makes it all matter, and that's fun. None of that stuff matters. None of the commonalities and things that you have or that you bring to the table, male or female, really. But really, since females tend to make the majority of the coupling decisions on a date, we need to kind of understand this. None of that stuff matters on their dating profile until this person's actually having fun with you. And so if you can't bring the fun, good luck getting any place else. So the most important factor, especially at the beginning of a relationship, is going to be fun. If you can get that nailed, then you will have a second date and a third date. And by then, all those other things that you bring to the table as a partner will start to matter, if that makes any kind of sense. So I hope that makes sense. By the way, for those of you who are interested, we actually, Stephanie and I sat down yesterday for about an hour and a half and went through and mapped out our training schedule for 2023. In February 2023, we are actually doing our next 4-day attraction mastery class. For you guys and gals who want to actually get the physical skills to go along with the mental skills. Like in Soulmate Secrets, we teach you all the inner game stuff, how to figure out who you want, what you want, what's the right kind of partner for you, where to find these people, that kind of stuff. And then attraction mastery would give you the actual technical skills to go out and attract those people, right? Because a lot of times people know what they want, they don't know how to go about getting it. So we kind of balance that out. Let's see here. See what else. I have to scroll back up, by the way. And by the way, I'm not doing this. I'm not live streaming this to Zoom. This is purely for our YouTube audience right now. So a lot of times the chat stuff is flying faster than I can get to it. So I'll do my best to answer. Let's see here. Was just listening to another video of yours and yes, it works. How about that? So David asked, or Jay was asking, what's the most important tip in attracting women? And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go so far as to say, it doesn't really matter if you're a man trying to attract a woman trying to attract a man, a woman trying to attract a woman, or a man trying to attract a man. If you're not bringing the fun, it's over. It's over before it gets started. So pardon me while my phone rings. Anyway, that's Amazon letting me know my food has been delivered. But anyway, let's see here. Did the information help from Costa Rica? We're still working that out, Laura. That's kind of Stephanie's baby right now, so I don't have a lot of follow up on that. Let's see here. Your Own Way says Jason K from the UK. How you doing, David? My good friend, mentor, and inspiration. Wow, thank you so much, Jason. Good to see you again, brother. Joe from Phoenix checking in. So Brick T says, yes, David, that's exactly it. But it's these types of terms in general. And people like me are uninitiated. So that most people outside your circle won't understand NLP terms. Okay, so metal is not an NLP term. Metal is more a Chinese medicine term, more of a Chinese mystical term. But yeah, one of the things that you really want to stay away from when you're interacting with the, I hate to use this in a derogatory sense, but the muggles, so to speak, those who aren't kind of in the know with what we're doing, stay away from jargon as much as possible. It only separates you from the people you're trying to connect with. So it's always better to describe people in terms of the attributes rather than the labels. So if you say if you see somebody who's very fiery, for example, fiery people tend to be very small. They have very pointy features. They tend to be a little bit elf-like. They tend to always be moving. Oftentimes they have lots of freckles. Tend to be very creative, very spontaneous, love new stuff, right? The last thing you want to say is you're a fire person. And they go, huh? You want to actually phrase what you observe from that person in the form of a positive statement. Like, you seem like someone who's really loves to try new things, love to experiment, and describing things in terms of those positive attributes will get people to buy into the reading that you're giving them or the assessment that you're giving them in a much more positive way, as opposed to saying, oh, you're a fire person. Well, now you got to explain what fire means. And now in that process of explaining what fire means, you could actually lose rapport with them. So let's see here. Pedro's saying how to make other persons speak about themselves and create connection. Ooh, I just did last Tuesday. I did my weekly coaching session with my platinum and my mega platinum members. And one of the things we talked about was the concept of echo technique, which is always going to be your go-to. You've heard me talk about it a gazillion times, and it hasn't changed. But there is a parallel type of statement that you can make that will prime people to want to talk about themselves more. And that's called an empathic statement. An empathic statement is an observation delivered in the form of a cold read, right? It's not a cold read in that we're pretending to be psychic. It's that we're looking at the person's state, their body language, the context in which we're interacting, and we're making a statement about what we see. We're putting a label on it. So if someone comes into my room or my facility and their face is beet red, they're breathing really fast, maybe they got a little bit of sweat on, I might look at them and say, wow, something's got you really excited. I wonder what's going on there, right? Now, red face, sweat, breathing fast, could be any number of things, but I take what's there, I create a statement, and I use a sensory-based word. So I say, it looks like you're really excited about something. What's got you so excited, right? And one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to agree and they're going to elaborate on what's got them so excited, or they're going to fall victim to human nature. And if what you said was wrong, they will actually correct you and tell you what's really going on with them, which also gets them to open up. And from there, you can echo technique, 3 magic questions, reference, resistance removal formula, wherever direction you want to take the conversation, you can do that very, very easily with what we call an empathic statement, or in my world, I call them pacing statements. Jack Schaefer, the guy who really kind of originated that particular concept in his book, The Like Switch, called it an empathic statement. Okay, you may hear Chris Voss talk about tactical empathy, which is kind of a combination of echo technique and empathic statements. Let's see here. Yeah, so that helps. Hopefully that helps you there, Pedro. Yes, Manuel Schmoller, you're right. I have the same problem. Like, how can I not wait for the potential aggressor to act? Okay, I must have missed this one. Let me scroll back up. So Linda's asking, I was watching other videos you've done. I'm always impressed. I'm learning, but want to get better. People seem to be afraid of trying anything they think is woo or fun. What can I do? Join our mastermind. For those of you who don't know, we actually have paid levels available on the channel. I don't promote it that much. After we initially launched it, I just kind of let it kind of do its own thing. But we actually have paid levels here on the YouTube channel. The first level is what we call the gold level. It's like $10 a month, like $9.99, and it gives you access to all of our mastermind content that we create every month, as well as shout outs and things like that. It's got lots and lots. There's about probably 300 or 400 videos between everything that you can access, or at least 300 or 400 hours of video that you can access from there. And then we have the platinum level. The platinum level is you get all the same content as the gold level, but you also get 2 Ask Me Anything sessions, private Ask Me Anything sessions a month, on the first Tuesday and the third Tuesday of the month, Mondays of the month. I log on usually around somewhere between 4 and 5, and for a couple of hours, all I do is you can ask me anything you want, right? And those are recorded and they're kept in the members only community section here on the YouTube channel. And then we have the platinum level on our YouTube formula, which is this is where you actually get to come to my virtual mastermind, and actually in a Zoom format with me, you get to actually come in and ask me what you want to learn about. I write everything up on the board. On my board, I look at where they all kind of connect. I create a lesson plan for the entire group on the spot. And then for the next 4 hours, I personally drill you on those skills until you can do them in your sleep. Okay. And so the people who come in at the platinum level, they actually get to participate in actual workshops with me once a month. And then they get access to all of our mastermind video. They get access to all of our AMAs, and they get access to all of the content that is available to go look. So you get all this other, plus you get discounts on trainings and things like that. So for those of you who want a deeper level of access to me on a consistent basis, you might want to take a look at that, give it a shot for a couple months, see if it's something that works with you. If it is, hang out, stay, and stay as long as you like, as long as you're getting value. If not, you know what? You got some cool shit for a while. And you get to meet a lot of cool people. And a lot of people have made some really, really powerful and deep friendships. They've gotten a lot of their issues that they've come in with resolved because the people in the group are actually actively training and learning how to do these things and help people, starting with themselves. And I always think you should, when it comes to helping people, you should always start with you. I really, really believe that. And it's always going to, and again, that may fly in the face of what, some new age self-help gurus or spiritual advisors might recommend, but most powerful things I've seen have come from people who are self-empowered. And so I want you to be that kind of a person. Self-empowered people rarely become victims, okay? For whatever reason. They're just easier targets out there. And I want to take you off the menu for the predators of the world. Let's see here. So I hope that helps. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but that's how you get better. You've got to reach out. And if you're not willing to come in and join the Planet David community, then by all means, create one. Go to meetup.com, create a meetup group, get together with cool people like you who like to do cool stuff, have a fun, exciting educational event where people have a shared interest and can actually roll up their sleeves and do the drills and get the skills. Most of the videos you guys have been watching for however long you've been in Planet David started as a free event somewhere. And if I had the time, I would be still doing them because I really, really enjoyed that time just reaching out and hanging out and meeting people. And some of my greatest discoveries about how humans work came from the clinic, and they came from those live events, and they still do, right? Let's see here. How can you practically prove non-contact striking in Systema is real, and why isn't this talked about more if it is? Because what you're dealing with is, okay, this is, again, I have my own theories on this. First of all, let me say this. Non-contact striking is a phenomenon. It's just not a very consistent one. And my firm belief is that what you're dealing with is a mirror neuron facilitated phenomenon. One of the things your mirror neurons do is they intercept intention. Okay. And so if you can generate an intention and flag it or signal it in such a way that the nervous system picks it up, if you do it at the right time, the nervous system will actually see the formation of the punch, and it will actually predict what's going to happen. In other words, as I go to punch somebody, your brain, and this is neuroscience, by the way. Okay, back when I was really playing with this stuff, I had this theory, but the neuroscience wasn't there. Now I can explain it based on neuroscience. And this is why sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. When the opponent's nervous system perceives the punch coming in, several things are happening. Remember that your nervous system doesn't exist in real time. It doesn't exist in real time. And if you watch these non-contact systemic practitioners, they always telegraph the punch. It's a little thing, but but they usually do it before the person's in range. Okay. Now what happens is as the person's moving, there's a certain process. There's a lot of moving parts to this. But let me just explain what I believe is going on. I believe that the person's nervous system is picking up the intention of the attack, of the strike, and it's actually predicting what's going to happen. And because you tend to have this monkey mind in a fight or flight context, the more fight or flight the person has, the more this tends to work. They actually their nervous system actually generates the feeling of the punch before the punch actually lands. And that's what you're seeing. I think it's a mirror neuron facilitated phenomenon, right? And this isn't, by the way, the no touch, the no contact punching in Systema isn't the only place where this happens. It's also very, very common in a lot of sword work. Like in a lot of times in sword work, there's this move in the sword where they fade back and then they cut. What happens a lot of times is when the person is drawing back their blade to cut, their neurology, their intention is actually going inside and making the movie about what it's about to do. And then when it's about to launch the strike, the awareness of the person comes back out. So that fluctuation of awareness is when the person is inside making a picture of what's going to happen. And then as they go to make a move, they put their awareness back outside. That moment is almost always correlated with the chambering movement of a sword strike or a punch. So if you catch them right as they're transitioning from internal awareness to external awareness, you do what in NLP we call a pattern interrupt. And because the nervous system is processing unexpected phenomena, it stops what it's doing and follows whatever stimulus comes with it. This happens in sword work because as someone's going to strike with a sword, they'll pretend to they'll mimic the motion of a parry or a block without actually physically touching the blade, and the person's blade will follow the trajectory of the defender's sword and leave the person open for a cut. And so it's the very similar phenomenon. So your brain, a lot of times, in your nervous system, I should say, is always trying to predict what's going to happen next, and it's always correcting for error. Now, for those of you who want to see the pieces of what I'm talking about, Mirroring Others by a researcher named Jacoboni. I will tell you about mirror neurons. The interoceptive or predictive nervous system you can learn about in the book How Emotions Are Made by Lisa Feldman Barrett. Okay. And also pick up a book by Cleve Baxter. It's an older book. It's called Primary Perception. Okay. If you put the information in these 3 books together, you come up with a neurologically based model for how no contact striking works and why sometimes it doesn't work. So hopefully that helps. That was a little bit more convoluted than I wanted to talk about, but cool question. Good questions deserve good answers. Let's see here. So Manuel says, I'm struggling with my own inability to pull the trigger when it comes to standing up for myself. And it especially bothers me when I have to protect someone from violence. I just couldn't move. So my first question, Manuel, for you is, are you actively training in any form of physical self-defense or martial arts? If the answer is no, then that's the first step. You need to put yourself in an environment where you get to practice the physical movements connected to the emotional triggers. It doesn't matter how strong. Let me be very clear how it is. The will to fight is always more important than the ability to fight, but not by much. Okay? Someone who's willing to fight, who's willing to stand up for themselves, is going to take themselves off the menu a lot faster than somebody who has the skills but is unwilling to do it. Okay? One of my more controversial mentors used to say, if you consistently walk around looking like a bologna sandwich, don't be surprised if somebody tries to take a bite out of you, right? So in my school and my students, in terms of, I teach all my students an integrated art from the martial to the mental and the magical. We actually do practice martial arts. Most of the people that train with me are not professional full-time martial artists. They have no desire to get in an MMA ring, but there are certain benefits that martial training will do for you besides the ability to protect yourself. It's a great way to train your willpower. It's a great way to train your state control and amplify your awareness, which is something that never, ever, ever goes out of style and is always useful, right? So situational awareness is something we always need to be aware of. But you need to have the will, you need to have the ability and the willingness to protect. Okay, you don't have to like it, but you have to be willing to do it. And those are the 2 things that need to happen from my perspective, just the beginning. Okay. And then you need ways to progressively train that at higher and higher levels of challenge. We call it pressure testing in combat Systema. Let's see here. Let's see. So Lindsay says, Brick T, can you explain more? And that was for him, for Brick. Middle Eastern Illuminati, do you see any of the newer musicians using language patterns? I know certain older bands. I think everybody who has any familiarity with any form of linguistic communication is using language patterns. One thing you have to understand is that some of the most powerful language patterns out there are also some of the most powerful filters to human experience that we have. So it's impossible not to use them. The question is somebody using them with an understanding of what's going on, or are they using them intuitively? Which means their communication is largely at random and by default or extremely context dependent. So I think a lot of newer musicians are also using language patterns. I don't think you cannot use them, right? Rich from Scottsdale, catching up, thanks. Food's here, webinar over. Right on. Having fun is the best way to start a habit too. I absolutely believe that. Well, again, when to Hello Friend Hypnosis says, Lacheret and his Huna stuff attempt to teach no contact hitting. I prefer this mirror neuron stuff. I do too. But you gotta understand something. When I was developing this stuff, um, there was, I mean, mirror neurons were still largely not known. This was back in the, God, this was the early 90s that I got into this aspect of it, you know. And I was kind of the renegade in the fields that were actually studying this, a lot of the controversial fields. But the more I embraced this mirror neuron concept, and the more I got into the dynamics of primary perception, mirror neuron, and really finally the interoceptive predictive aspect of the nervous system, the more these phenomena started to make sense. Okay, and that doesn't necessarily, and the thing about that is that it doesn't negate in any way this idea of chi projection. Because chi is like energy. Well, energy can be anything. It can be kinetic energy. It can be heat energy. It can be life force energy. There's so many different chis out there, right? What kind of energy is intention, right? In Chinese, it would be called yi chi, intentional chi, right? The chi of, again. So when we say chi projection, yeah, that doesn't, it just doesn't mean we're doing this Dragon Ball Z kind of shit, right? What we are doing is sending information that is being picked up by that other nervous system, and it's responding to that communication, right? Martial arts is just another form of communication, whether you realize it or not, right? And everything that we do, whether it's martial, metaphysical, neurolinguistic, dating, and attraction, they all meet at the human nervous system. So once we understand how that nervous system takes in information and creates the reality functionally, not in terms of the neurochemicals and all that shit, that's really not useful, believe it or not. But how does it actually work? And what are the tools that we use to make it work? And more often than not, it comes to the things that have stood the test of time for centuries: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory, data, right? Vibrational information transmitted through these 5 channels, right? And so my metaphysics becomes greatly enhanced once I study the dynamics of practical physics, right? And I've seen it work over and over and over again that way. Whereas before, other ways, the results aren't nearly as consistent, and that's what we need, right? How consistent can you produce a phenomena? If you can't consistently produce a phenomena, it's not worth doing, as far as I'm concerned, right? That's why I love NLP a little bit more than a lot of people have a lot of baggage where NLP is concerned. They call it a pseudoscience. Well, fine, it's a pseudoscience, but the question becomes: does that pseudoscience produce a consistent result? And in most cases, believe it or not, it does. There are places where NLP's kind of missed the boat a little bit, but there's a lot of places where they got it right. Maybe not for the reasons they thought, but they still got it right functionally. And so that's what we look at as a neurolinguistic programmer, or anybody working from a neurolinguistic based phenomena, or martial arts for that matter. The first question we have to ask is, does it work? And does it work consistently? And if it works consistently, everything else is academic, because now we have something we can rely on, right? I'll let the rest up to the researchers. So let me see here. So Chef McSwagger is asking, is tantric sex similar to vibrational healing or any of the NLP stuff that you have for sale? Yes and no. Tantric work of any kind is largely the Asian version of Kabbalistic. In fact, if you read Franz Barden's book, Initiation into Hermetics, I believe, it's either Initiation into Hermetics or his 3rd book, Keys to the True Kabbalah, he actually talks about the comparison of tantric versus Kabbalistic processes. And he basically says they're the same thing. And actually, Kabbalah actually has a sexual tradition as well. I never had the chance to learn that stuff in the Kabbalah Center when I was learning it. But I know they talked about it a lot. I think all of these things are related. I do. But I think each of them is a piece of a much larger puzzle. And I think how they work and how well they work on a consistent basis is dependent on how you combine them. Certainly, NLP can allow us to explore the mechanics in the structure of tantric and or vibrational work, and observe it from a process standpoint. And I think that's what's really true, not the metaphors we use to describe it, so much as the process implicit in the metaphor. Let's see here. So I hope that answers your question. What do you think about the finger flicker against most boxers? I don't know what a finger flicker is. So no contact hit is yes, in a very real sense. A no contact attack is our counter is actually very much a hypnotic induction. In fact, one of the things you might try sometime is next time you're sparring with somebody, as soon as you hit them, yell sleep and see what happens. I'm betting they go out. Okay, Manuel says, yes, I am. I'm actually very well trained. I did enough combat sports and martial arts to outdo most people in the world, but I lack the predatory. Okay, so the best thing to do then is find someone who's skilled in some NLP and hypnosis work, and start removing the reservations that you have. Start building in specific. The best source I know for this right now is Kevin Secor, who's my teacher in combat Systema. And what he has is he has a video on his website called the Predator-Prey Switch. And it's all about how to go from pacifist to predator, like flipping a switch. So I would get that work first. Next I would do is I would actually practice it hypnotically, turning it on, turning it off. And then what I would do is I would have levels of escalation. In other words, like if you remember a guy, I don't know if you guys are into handgunning at all, but there was a guy by the name of Jeff Cooper many years ago. He came out with a series of stages from condition green all the way up to condition black or whatever it was, where you had these different levels of preparedness and the appropriate level of response to that. What helps a lot of us is to, before any of this shit ever actually happens, is to establish what are the levels of escalation and what are the benchmarks for each of those levels, right? And stick to that. Another great source that can help you on the other side of that is called Left of Bang. It's another book in my reading list. And it's all about how to speed read people's intentions and things of that nature. So if you have these color codes of combat from Jeff Cooper, you have the Predator-Prey Switch from Kevin Secor, you have your own martial arts skills, and you've pre-thought out the level of responses for each of those color codes in the combat system. Now all you need to do is have a way to scan your environment and know what condition you're at any given moment. And so the two places I would look for that is Left of Bang, and then my good friend Chase Hughes has a little mini course he put out for law enforcement on how to spot potential aggression before it happens. I would take those and integrate them as your way of kind of having more situational awareness. So that's kind of how I would look at it from a professional perspective. Okay, you have your color code of combat, which tells you what level of force to respond with. You have your Predator-Prey Switch that you can practice flipping on and off at will, and you have your situational awareness training, so you know at any given moment what color code you're at. So I hope that helps. Alessandro says, hi, David. I have a question about feelings of lack of deservingness. I always end up approaching people that are less attractive because I don't feel like I deserve better. How can I work on this? Anything in the identity by design silo will significantly help you get through that. And then what you want to do is you want to take the techniques that we teach in Attraction Mastery and layer those over top of what we teach you in Identity by Design or Self-Mastery Supercharger. And what you'll find out very, very quickly is you'll not only develop the inner game to realize that you actually are worthy and deserving, because by definition, a person who spends time learning how to be a great partner is more deserving of a great partner than somebody who doesn't invest in that. So by the very definition of you asking the question shows that you're somebody who wants to be a better person, which means you're more deserving already, right? Generally speaking, the interesting thing is the people who are actually deserving of good partners are usually the ones who don't think they are. And so they ask for help, which proves that they're the right kind of people. The people who think they're already God's gift to the man or woman, whatever, they're not the ones who show up for class, if that makes any kind of sense. So the more you educate yourself on how to be a great partner, the more deserving you become, right? The question becomes, how do you move through the world exuding a sense of presence that flags you as somebody worthy to get to know? That's where the outer techniques that we teach in attraction mastery, or secrets of speed attraction, or soulmate secrets can really help. So I hope that helps you. Also, secret orgasm tips, which is again a whole other level of training. So let's see. Anthony Caruso: most popular musicians aren't the ones writing their material. Okay. Brick T: so famous box good said fear is a tool that can be used for aggression, and a Systema instructor said not to be aggressive as it's different side of fear conflicting. Yes and no. One of the things that a good Systema practitioner is teaching you how to do is remove the fear from your body as much as possible. Because what happens is the more fear we have, the more limited our response is to aggression. The idea isn't, again, to if you go through classical Systema training, or even like with Kevin, I think Kevin's probably the best Systema instructor I've run across, because he's always about pressure testing. And the idea behind Systema is you start off at levels that are minimally provocative until your set point, your baseline for neurological arousal recalibrates, and then you step it up again, and then you step it up again, and then you step it up again. While at the same time, the soft work, the internal work, is designed to teach you how to become aware of the fear in your body and how to systematically remove it and recover when shit goes south. And the idea behind that is that the more fear reactivity you remove from your system, the more behavioral flexibility and combat flexibility you regain. And so when you're operating from fear, your scope of response is very limited. When you're operating from this other place that Systema is trying to get you to, you're operating from a very different level of body awareness. It's amazing the intelligence that's locked into your body. But in order to get to it, to allow it to express itself, you have to actually remove the pent-up, built-up fear and the trigger that puts you into fight or flight, and how to get out of it once you get pushed into it. And that's where a lot of the systemic internal work is really focused, right? Soft work is great. I love soft work, but if you don't ever step up the intensity, all you're doing is play fighting, and you're not dealing with that Systema likes to always have, when you're training, they always want to have you right on that edge of being overwhelmed. That's where they want you to be, because it's by staying right on that edge of overwhelm, where you're here, you're performing at optimal, you're slightly out of your league, and learning how to slowly raise it. That's what a lot of the soft work and the breath work and all these weird things you see them doing is about. And at the end of the day, I don't really care which martial arts system you practice. If you incorporate that kind of work into what art you're doing, you're going to be better, because fear no longer controls you, right? But there's a lot of systems that they say basically, hey, fight or flight's going to happen. We can't control it. We can't predict it. Let's just use it, right? And so there are systems like, I think Krav is probably one of the better ones that really talks about this. This is what's going to happen. This is worst case scenario. Let's harness it and use it, right? At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Does it work for you, right? And what is it you really want to do with your art? If, to be honest with you, if all my martial arts gave me was the ability to fight, I'd have been out of it years ago. I really would have. But something about certain martial arts disciplines triggered something in me that made me start asking a lot of questions. And over time, I got other arts, not necessarily martial, but other types of arts triggered that same kind of questioning response in me. And I kept digging, and I kept digging, and I kept digging. And these are the answers I found. And if they work for you and you can apply them, great. If not, find something that does. Not everything works for everybody, right? But I hope that kind of answers the question. A lot of really tough questions today. I like this. Let's see. But fear is absolutely an energy that can be used, and many arts do use it. Martin says, I had no idea you were filming this evening, David. I've really been focused on pattern interruption work these past few months because I've been helping men and women with severe relationship jealousy issues. Okay, cool. C. Braley says, I love cheese, a little wine. I've used that joke a few times. Let's see here. Martin is saying, lack of reliable advice and support for the psychological aspects and habits caused by it is astounding. They get more judgment than support. I would believe that's true. David Xavier is saying, I read a book by Helene Hadsel from the 70s claiming that she won most of the lottery contests she entered using manifestation techniques. Does it work that way, or was she just selling her book? David, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the author. I'm not familiar with the book. All I can say is take her techniques, apply them. If they work for you, then she's telling the truth. If they don't work, you're either missing something or she's full of shit and selling a book, right? Test everything, even my stuff, right? That's why we do real world hypnosis. Anytime, anywhere, under any circumstances, for any reason. We'll put up or shut up. Let's see. Smart Eyes TV is saying, David is not only the best, he has a monopoly on higher standards. Hold on a second. I'm going to click this little blue button. It may jump, but I may have to look for the rest of this again. Okay. David is not only the best, he has a monopoly on higher standards. We are lucky to have you. Okay, Smart Eyes, thank you so much. That's very kind. I'm blushing now. God. Let's see here. Smart Eyes says, welcome to become a gold member. Very cool. Let's see. Oh, there's a lot of questions. So Brick T says, what new groundbreaking truth or new techniques have you discovered because you do so much research, like a super secret most people won't even think of? You know, the more I learn, the less I know. But one of the things that keeps happening over and over and over again, the more I look at the cutting edge neuroscience and the processes behind it, the more I keep finding truth in what the old mystic systems are teaching us. So here's something I'm going to give you, and you can believe it or you cannot believe it. But we talk about image cycling and we talk about color breathing. These two methodologies, which come from two very different sources, are actually part of a much more comprehensive system. And once you understand that, you can use it to fuel just about any transformation that you want to make. And so that image cycling for us has been around for 3 or 4 years in terms of what we do with it at Planet David. But what we can do with it and what it's allowing us to do is nothing short of miraculous in many cases. And I still don't think we've scratched the surface of it. So, you know, I'm studying a lot of different things at the same time. So I'm studying everything from advanced interrogation techniques, advanced communication and bonding, trust, personality profiling, advanced Oriental medical practices, shamanics, a lot of Taoist, esoteric and Mikyo esoteric practices that we're going to be teaching in Costa Rica in a couple of months. But what's happening a lot is I'm getting deeper and deeper and deeper understanding and teachings on things I've been doing for years. And that's creating even higher levels of connections in our world. And a lot of it is still experimental. I don't put stuff out there that I haven't field tested and that doesn't produce a consistent result. So I've got a lot of stuff that I'm working on, but I'm working on it for me first. Because if I can't do it and I can't consistently demonstrate or produce a phenomena on demand, then it's not ready to be taught to you guys yet. If that makes sense. I mean, because we always, a lot of times we confuse ourselves with the joy of learning and taking in new information with the exaltation of actually being able to do something. They're not the same. And you need a lot more repetition and practice to get from learning to facilitating, right? And so that's kind of where we're at. And that's why a lot of the systems that we teach have the same stuff. They're just taught in a slightly different order because it's the same building blocks. It's the same truths. It's the same nervous system doing it. And when you understand that, you get a million different things you can do using the same sets of tools. And to me, that's what true power is. The ability to be effective, to make something happen, right? And so I'm learning stuff. I've got so many things that are in the queue, but I have to, unfortunately, I can't download it like Matrix-like into my own brain, much less yours. So I have to take the slow path. I have to test. I have to practice, and then apply. And then I bits and pieces make it into my core trainings where they're relevant. Like yesterday or last week, I was teaching a module on storytelling and using stories to connect. And I brought in some tidbits from counterintelligence, we talked about the empathic statements and how they fit into stories used for connection and getting people to open up and talk to you. Again, it's the synthesis of these pieces that on the surface don't seem like they're even remotely relatable to each other. But at the end of the day, they're like a Lego, right? I have a Lego here and a Lego here, and I can put together like this, and I can put together like this, and I can put together like this, and I can create new things. And so there will, whatever level you are on Planet David, right? You have some powerful modular Lego-like building blocks that you can create. If you can conceive of it, you can create it using the tools that we have. And a lot of times my students come up with shit I never thought of, and that's what's cool. So, tell me what you're doing with it in the field, and who knows, your stuff might make it into one of our books or our products with your name connected to it. So yeah, that's kind of my long dissertation on a whole lot of nothing. Middle Eastern Illuminati says, yeah, I listened to a few of the up and coming rappers, and this one, Extension, stuck out at me because he had a pendulum on his face. Okay, not sure where that's coming from. Hello, friend, Hypnosis. NLP has some good stuff, but some of it doesn't line up with neuroscience. Like, yeah, again, anytime somebody's gonna bash on NLP, it's always about the eye accessing cues. Look, eye accessing cues were just one person's observation. They're okay 51% of the time, most of the time, but I don't rely on it. I don't even teach it. I mean, I teach about it, but again, you can't take one piece of information and use it to invalidate an entire practice or an entire set of disciplines, right? Because by and large, everything else other than the eye accessing cues has worked. Some of it's a little clunky because it was designed back in the 70s, which is the problem. Back in the 70s, we had to type lines of code just to log onto our computer, right? You guys remember this shit happened before graphic user interfaces. So it's no surprise that a lot of old school NLP reads a lot like 1970s computer code, right? Middle Eastern law is a bit too precise not to be calculated. I think it's the labels they assign to a lot of them. Okay, I'm not sure where that's coming from. Renee says, hi, David, can you explain law of primacy and how to use it? Yeah. So the law of primacy is something we teach in Hidden Laws of Mental Dynamics. And basically, the law of primacy is when you come into this world, you are basically a big blank hard drive. You have no prior experience. You have no baselines to compare or contrast anything against. And so any data that is a first time arriving at the hard drive that is your mind becomes the baseline. It becomes the standard by which all things are measured. So when you come into this world, the first time you experience anything parental, right, whether it's them arguing or they're loving on you, that's locked into your mind as a primary experience. And it becomes the standard by which everything else after that is based on, right? The law of primacy works hand in hand with the law with a principle we call the law of familiarity, which states that the longer an idea has been held by the subconscious mind, the harder it is to remove. And what does that mean in terms of how primacy and familiarity work together? What that means is your brain is always sorting for what's familiar, what's been done the most often and been there the longest, which is almost always your primary experiences and the things that you do on a consistent basis. That's how your neurology orients itself to what's desirable in your world versus what isn't. And its primary job is to make your external reality match up with your internal reality, right? That's what it's been doing from the time you were conceived, right? So the information that gets there first has the most power. The information that's done most often it becomes the baseline that your neurology, or the equilibrium point that your neurology is always trying to get back to, right? So I hope that helps. Elvin at Heart says, got any help for a person with depression? Lots. Color breathing, spinning, magic frame, 20 minutes of walking every day, help other people. You do those 5 things, it's going to be impossible for you to be depressed for any length of time. That and change your posture, change your breathing. So that's 7 things. Okay. Happy thoughts. I got to find someone to hit. Oh, okay. Any volunteers? Oops, hold on a second. I just almost killed my computer. Oh, there we go. Okay. Let's see. David, how do you feel about DHEA as a vitamin booster and for energy, and can it cause too much of a change in females? I don't know enough about it to tell you one way or the other. The actual person to probably talk to about that would actually be my wife, Dawn. She's got the PhD in biochemistry, nutrition, and the whole 9 yards. So I would defer to her on that. I don't know enough about DHEA to really comment one way or the other. C. Bradley says, it is when you use your hands to face them with your hand and move it in a waving motion in front of their eyes. Okay, so that's explaining it to somebody else. Used extensively in Systema. Maggie says, I used to be able to tickle my daughter without. I can do all kinds of weird shit without touching. I've actually demonstrated it in my hypnosis classes. The problem with it is not that it's not a real phenomenon. The problem is that there's too many variables for it to be something you should base your entire system of self-defense around. And that's the problem. That's actually why I stopped teaching a lot of no-touch work, actually in the 90s. Fun thing about teaching 9-year-olds how to do no-touch stuff is they don't have a belief system that says you can't, so it's easier for them to do it. The problem was, once people started seeing that, they didn't want to punch and kick anymore. They didn't want to practice takedowns. They wanted to practice joint locks. They didn't want to practice break falls. They just wanted to do Jedi shit and wave their fucking hands. Well, that shit doesn't work unless you've got the other stuff. You need that other stuff first to build up the energy source, the intention delivery mechanism, and the willingness and the ability to hit and to take a hit. If those things aren't in place, only about 1/3 of the population is going to be susceptible to you. Why? Because they're natural somnambulists. Okay? I believe there's a lot of neurological sensitivity to this. And a lot of it also goes to how well trained you are, right? How much state control you have. Okay? There's a lot of variables to it that only good, solid martial arts training will give you. No amount of qigong, no amount of mantras is going to do it alone. You need all of the elements. And if you don't have all the elements, you're fucked. Pardon my French. All right. I know a lot of good black belts who didn't understand this and poo-pooed me when I tried to teach them about it. And they wound up getting broken ribs, busted noses, because they thought their Jedi fucking deflections were something other than what they are. Now, again, don't get me wrong. It's a real phenomenon. But we need to study what's actually going on so we can make that phenomena more consistent, know when it's applicable and when it isn't. And most people aren't willing to do that. They just aren't. Okay, mostly because their teachers don't know it either, and teachers are parroting what their teachers told them, which is almost always legend and stuff like that. So you've got to test and test and test everything, right? But I really believe, I know for a fact this phenomenon is real. I just think there's a different mechanism at work, which doesn't invalidate the phenomena, but it does give us some tools, at least, that maybe we can start to find ways to raise the success rate of it, right? But I think you still have to be willing and able to fight. I really believe that, if you want to be able to tap into that. So they usually freeze and fall over. Yeah. I shouldn't say this. This is just mean. This is back in my Darth Snyder days, and I didn't really know the ramifications of what I was doing. There was one kid in my class one time who was just a brat. Unfortunately for him, he was also highly suggestible. So one day he was just bratting off, and I'd like, if you'd say that one more time, I'm going to give your bladder the biggest squeeze it's ever had. He's like, oh yeah, right. And I went, "Urgh." And he went, oh! And you could see him trying to hold it. And then about 2 minutes later, he ran to the bathroom. Right? Mirror neurons are a wonderful thing if your state is right. Let's see here. So Ranburn Malholtra says, David, I'm a student and I usually sleep around 10 hours, but I have an exam coming up, so I need more time during the day. So please suggest something to reduce sleep and sustain productivity. You can use hypnosis to compress 10 hours of sleep into a few hours of sleep. It's a very common practice. So you might want to just Google, sleep. I forget what the actual word is that they use, but you can use hypnosis to buffer that and create a 10-hour day and a couple of hours of sleep. I did that with one of my students, Zach, one time. Krishid Body says, does dancing work? Don't know what that means, but that's all right. Ask a better question, I'll give you a better answer. Power Incarnate says, sorry, I'm new to this, but what is manifestation? I've heard some saying it's suggestion like auto-hypnosis. Others say something else, like actually affecting stuff outside of your own behavior. Manifestation is another way of saying magic. It's the ability to bring something into your reality, whether you do it through hard work or whether you do it through sending a message to the universe and the universe serendipitously brings that thing into your life. It's basically creating reality in conformance to the will and the imagination. Notice I say will and imagination, because imagination is actually stronger than will 99% of the time. Okay? In the untrained person, imagination rules. Baram Ha says, hey Grace, good to see you. Talking about vibrational influence course, once you've mentioned that you can get rapport with elements in the universe, what can you do with that? What did you mean exactly? Well, to understand what you can do with it, you have to understand what it is. Rapport is a phenomena of connection. It's a bridge of sameness between you and something else. Usually it's you and another nervous system. It's the same mechanism whether you're doing it interpersonally or transpersonally. And what happens is when that bridge is built, vibrational data, vibrational information from one source to another is transmitted back and forth. And the longer that connection is in place, the more alike the two ends of that bridge become. And as they become more and more alike, they start taking on the attributes of the other end. And so if you want this using an elemental example, if I wanted to learn to get rapport with the fire element, I would meditate and concentrate and become as much like fire on a physical, mental, and emotional level as humanly possible. Over time, that would create a bridge, a resonant bridge between me and that frequency of phenomena. And after a while, information would start to flow back and forth that would change me, but it would also influence the fire. This is what happens when human beings get a rapport. And like, for example, you connect with someone, all of a sudden you start finishing each other's sentences. Why? Because your brain's in train and they begin to think in the same way. Right? It's the same process that happens when you're watching a movie and you know exactly what the actor is going to say next, even though you've never seen the show before. Your brain has entrained and it's actually started to predict what's coming. And very, very often it's right. Same thing. Again, rapport is the same no matter what direction you aim it at. The question is, how long do you maintain that connection for the other things to manifest? And a lot of your chi stuff, your Aiki stuff, your Tai Chi stuff is actually a phenomena it's an application of advanced rapport. Maybe not rapport with that person, but rapport with something higher or transpersonal to it. But that's what really is doing. And so once you have that experience, or once you have that manifestation in your body, you and the fire element or you and the other person are basically one unit. If you've ever seen me on video where I basically hold on somebody, I just give somebody a little hug on their arm, and then I just gently touch their arm, and I bend my knees and they bend their knees too, or I bend over and they bend over, or I take a step and they follow me. I'm not pulling them. I'm not manhandling them in any way. I'm dissolving the boundaries, the permeability between their neurology and mine, so that we're no longer David and this other person. We're now one entity, and one intention is controlling that common center. And if I keep that I'm not trying to move the other person, I'm actually just moving myself, then their neurology, their mirror neurons will pick up that intention and mirror what I do. In advanced Aiki, a lot of what you're doing is actually that same phenomenon, except as you move the integration between you and the opponent, which is basically one person, their part of that movement puts them in a position where they can no longer maintain their stability and their structure, and they fall in a hole. That's actually a lot of Aiki, outside of the rapport connection, and the rapport connection and conductivity, is actually trickery. It's tricking somebody into moving to a certain position that they can't escape from. And then using the forces of nature, right? Like gravity, inertia, centrifugal and centripetal force. But anytime you find yourself pulling or pushing on somebody in an Aiki type of a format, you're actually doing it wrong. So just putting that out there. Again, a lot of martial arts questions today, so it's kind of interesting. I think the universe is trying to tell me something. What do you think? Let's see here. Chronopia 097 says, hi, David. Any specific process you'd recommend to help a 14-year-old on the autism spectrum dealing with pulling her own hair? Wow, you've got a 1-2 combination there. A lot of it would depend on how far into the spectrum they are and how able they are to follow instructions. The first thing I would say to you is learn color breathing, learn energy spinning, and learn the magic frame technique, the transformational triad. Make them as much of a game as humanly possible. Do them on things that aren't as severe as the trichotillomania, so that they get used to playing and having a result. And then focus on the trichotillomania's source. Trichotillomania is a phobia. It's a fear. And so most of those repetitive, obsessive behaviors are always fear-based. So there's something that they're trying to control. And it's usually a fear or an obsession or something like that. So you have to go back to some other, again, if you're not familiar with like our identity by design process or regression technologies, you should probably at the very least watch some of those videos, if not come to the class, because then you can really help the person. But most of our technology, the degree to which we can help somebody is largely based on their willingness to follow our instructions. If they can follow our instructions, I don't care what level of the autism spectrum they're on. If they can follow the instructions, we can help them. Okay? But if they can't or are unwilling to follow our instructions, then what we have is limited, at least at this point, unless you're going to go metaphysical. And then I would resort back to image cycling, and maybe some like pranic healing has some really good. There's a book out there put out by the pranic healing organization called Super Brain Yoga, which has proven really, really well for kids with learning disabilities and on the autism spectrum. I don't think it'll necessarily fix the trichotillomania, but it may impact the autism enough that they can follow along more effectively. So that's kind of where I would start for that. Side K, Timmy says, identity by design style is life-changing, best training ever. Thank you, Timmy. I miss you. I miss you. I still want to go back to Europe. Anyway, let's see. See, Bradley says, I really appreciate you fielding my question. My pleasure, man. That's what I'm here for, right? You guys are the reason I do what I do, right? And again, if you like the content, please like, share, tell people about what we do, learn the techniques, do them with other people, tell them where you got it, and just keep spreading the word. Pay it forward, right? There's a whole world out there that needs you. I can't do it all myself, right? Fix yourself, get your shit right, go out and help other people get their shit right, and help them to pay it forward. That's what it's all about, right? Get Smart Quick says, hey, David, nice room. Thank you. Let's see here. So Brick T says, how can you go into such a violent trance or state that you fight despite extreme pain from any injury from the past or recent attacker when you get hit and naturally have an unconscious? Okay. I think you're asking me two different questions here, Brick. Many people, when they lose control of their state, they lapse into a fight or flight berserk kind of a rage. And in that moment, their pain tolerance goes way up. But then again, they're just as likely to attack friends as well as bad guys. You can also hypnotically train this, and Systema actually trains you to stay in your control of your mind while your body is free flowing as well. So there's a few different questions that you're trying to ask me there. So I think if you can clarify the questions, I can give you a better answer. Simon, not a question, just to say I've discovered your videos in the last week and loving them. Many thanks from the UK. Many thanks. How do you do that heart thing? I gotta figure that. Is that right? Did I do the heart right? Love my UK folks. Get Smart says, nice vest. Thank you. You can actually get this one on Amazon. Just type in Lost Girls Dyson vest, DIYSON, and you'll see it come up, and you can get some of them. Support them. They do great work. Let's see here. Echo value station. So Blueprint Fitness Channel. David, thank you for everything. How do you make someone think something is their idea? This can be done. This can be for doing things for you, showing up for you in a certain way, going out of their way. 3 ways you can do it. I'll give you. There's 2 ways really. Before you start getting all Darth Vaderish. First and foremost, criteria and values listation. Emotional bonding checklist, emotional motivation checklist. That's going to be the fastest way. If they have resistance to doing what you want them to do, then what you want to do is you want to hit them with the resistance removal protocol first, and then do an emotional bonding checklist on the reason they generate for doing what you wanted them to do. Okay, we call that, when you combine those 2 processes that way, we call that a criteria lock, because it literally locks in the emotional payoff that they get for doing the thing that they just said they didn't want to do. Okay, so again, emotional bonding checklist, resistance removal formula, or integrate them into one thing, and you'll be able to do that. And actually, we did that not too long ago. I think we did it on one of our masterminds. So if you go back through the mastermind archive or some of the AMAs, you may actually find where we've actually taught that. See here. So question, is Vladimir Vazilia lineage of Systema good? Most of the teachers I've worked with came from that lineage initially and then went their own ways. So yeah, I think Vladimir, first time my wife saw Vladimir, she was like, she was drooling because his mechanics were so good. I think Vladimir is an exceptional Systema practitioner, and most of the good teachers I've worked with come from his lineage. So, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. The question is, what direction are you taking what you have? He's gotten a little bit more controversial over the years, mostly because of the no-touch stuff. But for people who don't understand Systema, it's very easy to get the wrong impression. And a lot of times they've emphasized certain things for commercial reasons over other things which don't have the same, in my opinion, again, this is strictly my opinion, that may not have the same level of martial value as they do commercial value. So, but there's also a lot of other non-Vazilia or Ryabko lineage instructors out there. Kadashnikov Systema by Alexei Kadashnikov is another version that's not systemic, or not the Vazilia lineage per se. There's also some Cossack-based or some old folk systems of Systema that are very, very good. What's his name? If you Google Systema Homo Ludens, Systema, Systema, Homo, Homo Ludens, there's another practitioner who's originally from the Vazilia lineage, but he went and created what he called the playing man Systema, which is what Homo Ludens means, playing man. And he has some really, really good stuff. I got the chance to train with him and Kevin Sikor at the same time many, many years ago in Montreal, and he was absolutely brilliant. He looks like this big Yul Brynner dude. And normally I know his name, like I know my own, and it's just not coming to me right now. And I really hate that because I really like the guy. But yeah, there's some good people out there, right? Fight, flight, freeze. Yeah, he dope. Let's see here. What is the best state to be in for manifestation? Playful. Anything playful is going to have a higher probability of manifestation than anything else. And non-attachment. Create it, let it go. Grace says, I love the way David dresses. Well, thank you. I'm a little casual today. Let's see here. Lady says, like, guys, I think I didn't explain my issue right. I'm not trying to change or manipulate, but looking for a way to communicate better with him. Again, the fastest way to ethically communicate and get people on your side is the emotional motivation checklist, or the emotional bonding checklist, and the resistance rule formula. That's going to get you there faster than anything. And I've tested it. Okay. Let's see here. My biggest problem is that I have all this great information on how to get over my anxiety. Just don't know where to start. Start with for the first thing that pops into your head. Let me give you guys a really quick and dirty primer on how to start changing your own mind and body. The first thing you have to do is you have to establish a bridge for communication between your conscious mind and your reptile brain. Now, notice I pointed to 2 different areas. Up here is the neocortex, right? In the middle is the mammalian brain, and at the center, at the base, is the reptilian brain. The neocortex is the youngest part of you. It's the part of you that thinks in language, that comes up with rationalizations and things like, and creates expectations. The problem is that when we try to dialogue with our own nervous system, we process it through the filter of the conscious mind. And the dynamics of unconscious responses are not the same as the dynamics of a conscious response. So, get a pencil, get a paper. I'm going to give you 6 things to remember, to always keep in mind whenever you're doing self-work. Okay, and this is true when you're dealing with other people, because you all have the same nervous system. You just use them a bit differently, but you all have the same dynamics. The unconscious mind will always answer you first. Guaranteed. Will always answer first, many times non-verbally. So you have to be very aware of multi-level communication. Number 2, it's always going to tell you the truth. It always answers honestly. Okay, always answers first, always answers honestly. B or C, always feels like you're making it up. Because the part of you that controls all these different subjective aspects of you is also the part that makes things up. And so when the unconscious mind answers you, it has the same feeling to it. It has the same qualities. But you can't let that fool you. The fact that you think you're making it up is actually a sign that it's the right information. But if you buy into the dialogue from your neocortex, first thing that's going to happen is something's going to come up. This little voice in your head says, oh, that can't be right. Well, the minute you find yourself going, oh, that can't be right, you know it's right. Because it's coming from a different part of you. So unconscious mind always answers first, always answers honestly, always feels like you're making it up. And D, it always have an urge to edit what just came up. The moment something comes up, little voice in your head says, oh, that can't be right, and you start to change it. This is what it actually is. The moment you find yourself going, that can't be right, this is what it actually is, or what I actually meant to say or think, that's D. Anytime those characteristics come up, you know you're dealing with the right information. The answer you got first was the honest answer, and it's the one you need to do your work off of. It's never going to be loud. Okay. Many times when there's an old saying that the conscious mind shouts, the unconscious mind whispers, right? The true information that you need is almost always going to feel like it's in the background, like it's quiet or off in the distance. And the reason it has that quality isn't because it's weak. It's because it's deep. Metaphorically speaking, it's deep in the neurology. And that's where that information is coming up from. And so it has a very weak, distant quality to it, but it doesn't mean it's weak. It means it's deep. So again, trust the information, right? For those of you who watched our last Hidden Laws of Attraction webinar, I talked about the difference when you do affirmations between that big positive feeling you get when you state the affirmation and that little icky, naggy feeling in the background. That little icky, naggy feeling is actually the stronger feeling because it's the older one and it's the deeper one. Remember primacy and familiarity? Guess what's been there the longest and the strongest? Guess what's going to win? So you got, when those icky, naggy feelings in the background come up, you got to chase them down and you got to nuke them if you want your affirmations to work. If you haven't watched the last webinar, I gave a motherload of information and a great package for you to take your skills to the next level. If you do nothing else, at least binge watch the webinar and do the drills and prove this stuff to yourself. If you want to level up in life and you want to, grab one of the webinar packages, you might have to call Stephanie and negotiate with her to get one. But maybe that's what you need. Maybe it isn't. Grace says, isn't it wrong to interfere with someone else's free will? It's almost impossible to interfere with someone else's free will. That's a very provocative statement. It really is. Because at the end of the day, any information you provide to a nervous system that isn't under the effects of drugs, at gunpoint, or some other form of coercion, that person can choose to accept it or not accept it. The question becomes, are they engaging in the level of critical analysis and critical thinking necessary to realize they have a choice and act upon it? Most people simply aren't. Most people simply aren't. You know, one of my other more colorful mentors used to say, I wouldn't, and I didn't, he said this, not me. He said, I wouldn't worry about going around compromising other people's free will because most people have none. And unfortunately, it's true enough to be true. It's true enough to be true. Right. Let's see here. Let's see. Yeah. David is always fully vested. Yes, I am. Average American. Anxiety. I used to be incredibly anxious. You're hilarious. Okay, let's see. Christian Flores says, thank you so much for this live. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Let's see here. When you say archives, do you mean through through YouTube or website? To both, really. There is a good chunk of our early masterminds on our website, on behind the paid section. There's a mid-range set of archives on our private mastermind Facebook group, and then everything since about 2020 maybe is archived also on the platinum level and the gold level and the diamond level of the YouTube channel. So yeah. Lioness of Gaia, that was great. I learned a lot in the last webinar. Thank you. Good. Lindsay, how do you gain your own free will? You gain your own free will by becoming progressively more self-aware. This is something I teach all of my persuasion and influence students. And it's something that is part and parcel of my job as a teacher. My job as a teacher is to empower you, to give you the skills and the abilities to go and create the life that you want. And the first, most fundamental phenomena that has to manifest to make that happen is I must first make you more aware of yourself, more aware of the world you live in, more aware of the world of social and cognitive dynamics, more aware of the people around you. And the reason for that is because without awareness, there is no choice. Understand that? Without awareness, you have no choice. Anything that is outside of your awareness is outside of your control. And just because you're unaware of it does not mean it's not affecting you. So my job is to shock you, provoke you, give you experiences that pull the scales from your eyes and allow you to experience an aspect of reality that you didn't even know was there, or you suspected was there, but had no way to touch or tap into. And once you have those experiential moments, the awareness kicks in, and it becomes very, very hard to go back to being asleep. And there's always going to be another level of awareness to go to. But if you want free will, you must become more aware, because choice is the essence of free will. Without awareness, there is no choice. Without awareness, there is no free will. And that's about all I have to say about that. Okay. How many times a day and the best time for magic frame and spinning techniques? Well, hold on a second. I skipped a few. I'll answer that question, I promise. What techniques can help me work with anxiety during the day? Spinning, magic frame, and color breathing. Your thought on using image cycling to manifest reconciliation with a strange loved one. Not sure how to approach this as hands-on healing. Say do not include other people. Okay, first of all, image cycling does not have the same limitations as what other teachers impose on hands-on healing. Second of all, here's what I would do. I would use image cycling to change yourself so that you become the person that they want to reconcile with. There's absolutely no prescription or prohibition or wrongness with creating change that way. If you try to impose change on somebody who doesn't want it, it may stick or it may take, but then according to Bill, a lot of times the change doesn't stick. They'll change and then they'll find a way to screw it up. But there's no rule in the universe that says you can't change your personal reality to one where they actually come in when that's part of your reality, they come in and do a reconciliation. You are literally the center of your own universe, and you have absolutely every right, privilege, and authority to make any change in your universe that you want. So that's another way to facilitate reconciliations, by becoming somebody who is actually lives in a reality where reconciliation is not only possible, but inevitable. Right? I actually learned that in Kabbalah, of all places, believe it or not. Sandro Fugler says, healing work question. I have found that integrated manual healing with breath work is important. What mom's state do you encourage for clients? I don't know what a mom state is. If you could explain what a mom state is, I might be able to help you that. Benny B, how to handle social anxiety. Spinning, magic frame, color breathing, identity by design silo. Satyrus, welcome, my friend. Hey, David, my friend, what's up? Quick question. What's your opinion on kids nowadays just playing forever on their tablets and stuff rather than the more old school outdoor activities? What would you recommend? Well, that hits close to home because I have kids that do nothing all day but play on their computer, and I hate it. But until you can create an environment that is more seductive and more exciting and more enticing than the virtual one, it's something you're going to have to deal with. Anything, you got to remember that a lot of the software, especially the games, the YouTubes, everything online is designed to trigger a dopamine oxytocin response, which creates addiction. And so people become very, very addicted to their computers. If you can keep them away from the computer for a long enough period of time for them to dry out and create environments that are exciting in real life, then I don't think you'll have the same kind of problem. But right now, especially COVID did a number on all of us because COVID forced even people who were like outgoing and outdoorsy and active. It forced so many people to become laptop potatoes. And it's going to be it's going to take a while for us to recover that offline side of our lives. And a lot of the problem is because the virtual world has actually made things a lot easier for us in a lot of ways. So I think virtual learning is here to stay. But I don't think it's good. I think you need to ration how much time kids spend on their laptops, on their cell phones, on any kind of device. But then you have to be willing to, but then you see, because kids are sneaky, because I got them, right? They will find ways to get access to that stuff, right? So you've got to really, if you're going to set up a set of rules or a set of boundaries, you've really got to monitor it because they will find ways to get more. So, Bell 91 says, what is the most effective way to hypnotize yourself? Pretend you're hypnotized already. It's actually the best way to do it. EGR NHL. How many times a day and the best times for magic frame and spinning techniques? Arguably, the best times for spinning and magic frame are when you're waking up in the morning and when you're going to sleep at night. And the reason for that is because as you go to sleep, your brain processes what you're thinking about as you pass through those phases of sleep. And so you get more brain focus on that stuff right at bedtime and right when you're getting up than at any time of day. Now, that being said, you can do spinning, magic frame, or color breathing anytime you need to. And that's honestly what I would do. Whenever I feel the need to do it, I do it. But in terms of our daily allotment, as you go to bed, when you wake up in the morning, I get a lot of juice when I'm in that twilight state as I'm waking up in the morning. I actually get a lot more access to my internal neurology and resources functioning in that theta alpha state than at any other time. So those are the times I would recommend in terms of your diurnal cycles, right? Or circadian rhythms. Let's see here. Liam, what are you asking me here, buddy? David, what are you currently working on? I already answered that question. You should go back and watch the earlier segment of today. I'm working on a lot of Taoist techniques, a lot of different magical forms, from shadow magic to thunder magic. I am working on deepening my understanding of the Kuji In and the hand seals that are used in Taoism. I'm also studying what they call sigil making from the Taoist perspective, and I'm learning so much about that. It's insane. Also, I'm looking at weather magic, feng shui, from a Taoist sorcery perspective or Taoist magical perspective, not from the let's make our house more predifying, right? Although that's an aspect of it. There's a lot more to feng shui than that, but that's never made it outside of certain circles. So I'm doing a lot of generic research into these different areas, finding the little radioactive nuggets that I can bring out and integrate with the systems that we already have, so that we create a whole that's greater than the sum of the parts. And it's been a really interesting journey, but right now there's no really new techniques per se, but we are getting deeper, more clear ways to facilitate and implement our current body of technique, which I think is absolutely cool. Let's see here. Berker says, create awareness. Lindsay says, yes, I really need this. Pedro says, doctor, do you make events teaching on dating and erotic hypnosis and how to get women? I think you mean orgasms. The short answer is yes, I do. The class is always taught in Las Vegas. So one class, and all my classes, just so you know, Pedro, all of my classes are co-ed. So I teach women how to do this stuff to men, usually much more powerfully than I teach men to do to women, right? Because I want to empower both genders. But the short answer to your question is yes, I do. Bell 90, is it 9L or 9I? Follow up. When you or a client has abandonment programmed in, what is the first thing you would recommend as a pattern interrupt? As a pattern interrupt? I don't think that I would use a pattern interrupt. I would actually regress the cause. But I would probably start to prime the pump and prime their neurology by using spinning, magic frame, and color breathing, and then use that maybe a modified safe place induction, affect bridge to the initial sensitizing event, and reprocess the experience there. That would be my approach of choice. Benny's asking about social anxiety. What specifically, Benny? Spinning, magic frame, color breathing. You can nuke it. Also, posture and breathing control. Right? I have your webinar package. Do they go over how to be more aware? Yes, it's built into the training. You can't not go through the training and not become more self-aware. Right? It starts with point to where you feel it, and all just gets deeper from there. Sandra says, I meant to say mind state. Okay. Any alpha theta state is going to be good, but anytime you start doing manual work, the body's going to dip into an alpha theta state anyway. They're going to start dumping oxytocin and maybe some dopamine. So they're going to be in a profoundly altered state as a byproduct of the manual work. So you can just layer in suggestions, or if they start to add reaction, if you're working on a specific area that has a strong emotional charge locked in the tissues, then you can start to do like what we call a decision tree, which is basically, are you alone or with people, inside or outside, daytime or nighttime? And their first responses will give you what's actually locked in those tissues. But I wouldn't be attempting anything like that unless you're already trained in regression and or identity by design techniques. Okay, we're coming up on the 90-minute mark. I'm going to have to jump off pretty soon, but I'll have time like 3 or 4 more questions. Hello, Jedi Master. Where are you learning Taoist practice from? Several sources right now. I'd rather not say which ones they are until I've kind of locked it into myself. The military uses video games for training. The military uses video games for training. Life is like a big video game in and of itself. Yes, they actually use it for trauma rehabilitation, actually, believe it or not. Oh, snap. Surprise AMA. Set the time by device at the internet now. Okay. You can do that. Color breathing is different from spinning. Yes. Do you have a book out? No, I do not. I have, unless you count the manuals I've written for my courses. Those are technically books. How do I become more likable in under a week? Read the book, The Like Switch by Dr. Jack Schaefer, and get Killer Influence, Secrets of Covert Hypnotic Influence. To get those two books, you're going to be an amazingly cool person to hang out with. Liam, very interested in where to start looking into Taoist magic you were speaking of. Is it similar to vibrational healing techniques? Yes and no. The Taoist stuff is infinitely more complex and not nearly as fast. I'll tell you that right off. One thing I'm discovering right now is with a lot of these Taoist techniques, they're actually really slow. What we do is 100 times faster. Right? Which is why I think the universe is making me study the Taoist stuff now. Because I think we needed to have the actual engines of transformation that the Taoists are tapping into in order to understand the other stuff they're doing. That's how I'm thinking about it right now. Danka is asking how to be congruent when advertising healing when one needs their own healing too. Well, there's a belief that because you have shit you got to work on, that you're not qualified to work on other people's shit. It's just not true, right? That's like saying you can't be a great football coach if you've never been good at football. Well, there's been some great football coaches who are average players at best. Remember, if there's something you're drawn to fix, and that person is drawn to you to fix it, there's a spiritual reason behind it. So just remember, you got nothing to lose by doing your best to help them. And oftentimes you'll wind up helping yourself by helping that other person. Nadine, Anna says, my ex has the same character as my mom and he treats me the same way. They both make me feel neglected. How can I heal that and regress the cause? Regress the cause, reparent the experience, reparent your life. Create an alternate reality movie, breathe it through your body to decalouse the system and change your genetic memory and the charges connected to it, and you'll be on your way. Also, you're going to have to, because you're dealing with, again, old patterns, you're going to have to actually spend some time at the primacy level and the familiarity level rebuilding formative experiences. Hold on a second. Okay. And let's see here. Coming into the home stretch. Liam says, I'm okay with slow, consistent work. I like the challenge. How to lose weight by hypnosis. Lots of different ways to do that. Hypnotic weight loss is actually not my specialty. I think I maybe in my entire 15-year career, I've actually had a hypnotic weight loss client come to me specifically for hypnotic weight loss, maybe 3. And they were relatively successful, but that's not my specialty. My specialty is actually pretty much trauma, any form of chronic illness or trauma-based pathologies in terms of clinical work. But again, I would start with regress to cause. I would remove any reasons they had for gaining the weight. I would reprogram their appetite so that they're twice as satisfied with a quarter or half of the food. I would do mental rehearsal. I would give them post-hypnotic suggestions, and then I would monitor their behavioral change over the course of several weeks to see that they're moving towards that. Okay, and then based on how rapidly or consistent they are with their progress, then I would make changes or make additional recommendations as far as other things to add into their regimen. Should I get divorced? I can't answer that. I will not answer that question. Right? Help others in self-work. Teach. The more you teach, the better at this stuff you're going to get. Where can we learn more about the proprioceptive grid? Best place to learn about the proprioceptive grid is Identity by Design, whether in person or by class, and get the course. But Identity by Design is where we go, no pun intended, balls deep into the proprioceptive grid, and then we build on that in vibrational healing, vibrational influence, hidden laws of attraction, and regression. But you get your real primer on it, your real full indoctrination and training on the proprioceptive grid in Identity by Design. Kita is PTSD curable, 100%, 1000% curable. Crypt Ori, what's up, David? Good to see you. I have a high sex drive. How do I transfer that energy to other parts of my life? Focus on the feeling. Turn it into a color. Decide what aspect of your life you want that energy to be allocated to. Ask your higher mind, if my higher mind could send me a feeling, a frequency, a color, a vibration that would transform this sexual energy into the energy of XYZ, what color would it send me? Imagine a brilliant ball of that energy floating above your head, fill the room with it, wrap it around you, breathe it through you into that ball of sexual energy and watch it transmute and transform, and then bring it up to the energy center that is relevant to the area you want to play with, and spread it out into the world and just let it flow. And then follow your instincts. That's a basic way to do it. Liam says IBD was the most transformational centered class I ever had the pleasure to attend. Yes, you were amazing. That was one of our Identity by Design in general is really amazing. But the last time we did it was just the people in that class were just so on fire. I was really having a proud papa moment. You guys did awesome. Cynthia Holly says, Kita, as someone who has PTSD, David's work has been a huge blessing for me in that it is not healed, but greatly lessened. In that it is not only healed, but it's greatly lessened and still working on what pops up. So, Sunpeach 321, your suggested Kabbalah resources, ideas for images associated with embodying states for image cycling. I would go with whatever, and this is important, whatever metaphorically epitomizes the transformation to you on a personal level, that's what you use. If you can merge that with something that has an archetypal symbolism together, I think you're going to have the best of both worlds. But if I have to choose, I start with my own personal symbology for everything. What your nervous system creates, your nervous system accepts. Okay, and I haven't found a human being on the planet where that hasn't been true. So I hope that helps. Chuck Summers says, I was in a hockey slump and started spending an hour meditating and visualizing for the game. I spent time seeing myself on the ice making amazing plays. I turned my game around fast. Yes, classic mental programming. Classic mental programming. Amy Gaius says, in using chakra location as a way of being aware of the different spiritual awareness, is using chakra location as a way of being aware of the different spiritual awareness within the sections of the body actually effective? It can be. My particular practice and series of practices is not reliant on the chakra system. It probably activates and stimulates them, but it's not centered on activating a particular chakra. I believe if you engage in the application that needs that chakra to be active for it to work, you'll automatically by osmosis or osmotically activate that chakra rather than seeking to specifically activate the chakra, if that makes any kind of sense. I would rather develop the chakra through application than I would by just doing chakra work, but they're not mutually exclusive. Let's see here. What program would you recommend for PTSD? For you, the question becomes, do you want to do this yourself or do you want other people's help to do it? What work of yours is best for healing trauma? Identity by Design and real-world trauma resolution or regression. What's my opinion of Ross Jeffries and speed seduction? I've made that opinion several times, and I don't think I really need to revisit it here. I think Ross is kind of a mixed bag. He's done a lot of good things and some not so great things, and I think he's definitely earned his place in history. So. Side Flake Opal, resources for hermetics that are easier to understand than the originals. Good question. There's a book that my students like called The Back Door into Hermetics. I haven't fully read it, but they said it was really good. Molson 410, what teaching skills should be developed to help others with trauma and healing? What teaching skill? I would say the art of demonstration. The ability to get up in front of a group of people and demonstrate a technique in such a way that it simultaneously installs it in them, but at the same time teaches them how to do it so that they feel confident, they feel comfortable, more comfortable going forward and doing it. Tanner, thank you for clarifying. Hello, friend. Hypnosis, doctor. I've been in midst things, spinning it through the microcosm orbit, and it's been boom, bam, amazing. Yes, because the microcosm orbit is actually an image cycling system. Is actually an image cycling micro technique. I'm going to move to another country and leave my comfort zone, but I feel terrified and my fears are very strong. How to manage this to feel secure? Control your posture, control your breathing, point to where you feel it, reach out and touch it, frame it, spin it, color breathe it with what you want instead. You'll be done. Dr. David, that's not Grant, don't be sorry. I get that question quite often. My feelings on it are no secret. But some people like to get litigious, so I have to be very careful sometimes. As much as I like to think of this as a place where anybody can say what they want, there are people who abuse that. So I reserve the right to lower the proverbial boom and play whack-a-troll on you if that's the case. But your question was not a problem. Ed Wong 3 says, Dr. David, I'm certain you're familiar with EFT, which was developed by engineer Gary Craig. From your perspective, do you believe that the skill set you teach is more equal? I said it before, and I'll say it again. I have great respect for what Gary Craig brought to the world, but spinning beats tapping 10 out of 10 times. And if you don't believe me, put an EFT person and a spinning person side by side, have them work on the same person, or two people with the same problem, and see which changes faster. Right? I will say this: EFT has more clinical studies validating it than spinning does, so we know it works. But which is more effective? I have my opinion, but I'm biased. So test them both and see which one works for you. You may be the next EFT guru, and you can do things with EFT that I've never even dreamed of. But from my experience and the experiences of my students, spinning beats tapping. Multiple people doing manifestation for the same goal make it more powerful. It depends on how you do it. It depends on how you do it. You can have multiple people trying to manifest the same goal, but because of how they're going about it, they actually cancel each other out. So you have to be careful with that. Side flake opal backdoor. Thanks, blue skies. Okay, spinning rules. All right. Your opinion about placebo. You are about the book Placebo. I haven't read it. I should put that on my list. Yeah. Again, I think not a problem, Grant. It's cool. Hello, friend. Hypnosis. Can spinning be used more generatively versus? Oh God, yes. You got something you want more of, spin it the way that makes it stronger, put it back in, and you're gonna have an explosion in your nervous system. A good one. Yeah. There is a full. You can fix shit or you can make shit better. This is why I say there is so much more to spinning than what you think. Right? But anything you want more of, you can spin it to make it stronger and better. Absolutely. PTSD for you, then I would start with Self-Mastery Supercharger or Secrets of Personality Transformation, and then I would go into Identity by Design and then Real-World Regression. What techniques are best for removing fears and phobias? Spinning, color breathing, magic frame, regress to cause. I agree with that appraisal, Dr. David. What study course or silo trains the student to use the spinning to result? I'd start with Identity by Design, 100%. If you want to do therapy work, whether it's on yourself or others, I recommend Identity by Design. If you don't have any clinical aspirations at all, you never want to work on another human being, you can take Secrets of Personality Transformation and have all the tools that you need to fix yourself in a very profound way. The guy who wrote Sleight of Hand had an interesting study he mentioned about placebo. I think you're talking about Sleight of Mouth, Live the Seven. Warrior Spirit says, hey, David, tomorrow I'm going on market where people don't know what they're selling and you can get cool stuff for low price. It's all about negotiating there. Any advice? Read Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference. Focus on tactical empathy and echo technique, criteria, and value solicitation. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised what you can get away with. What's your opinion on creating a control in a client or your own mind to get rid of? I think that's perfectly acceptable. Anytime we call that constructive metaphor. Anytime you can create a metaphor that a person can interact with to exert control and give instructions to the nervous system, I think you're 100% doing what Bandler was implying with design human engineering, and what we're doing, which is anything the nervous system creates, the nervous system will accept. Britt T, can you explain the paradox of opposites attracting and having to be similar in dating? Yes, I can. And it's because, unfortunately, I'm out of time. But if you grab a copy of Soulmate Secrets, or actually Soulmate Secrets is the only place that I explain that, or if you're a member of the mastermind group, I actually taught that there are 4 personality types. 2 of those types are like attracts like. And 2 of those personality types are complements or opposites attract. And a lot of it has to do with the dominance of certain hormonal pathways in your brain. So you have people who are dopaminergic and adrenergic. Is it adrenergic? I think I might be getting that second wrong, but they're dopamine driven. And then you have people who are serotonin driven. These people are attracted to sameness, like attracts like. You have people who are estrogenic, or oxytocin. Dopamine, oxytocin, dopamine, estrogen, testosterone driven. Testosterone people are driven for difference. Estrogen people are driven towards difference. So serotonin and dopamine are sameness. Testosterone and estrogen driven people are like attracts, tend to do better with their opposites or complements. Okay. If you want to read more about that, you can look at the book Why Him, Why Her by Dr. What's her name? Just type it, go to Amazon, type in Why Him, Why Her, and her book will come up. Grant, I don't actually know who Christopher Duncan is, so I can't really answer that. What do you think of the Sedona method to release unwanted feelings? I am not really familiar with the Sedona method. I know a couple of people who've used it, who liked it. I don't know much more than that. Does knowing hypnosis and NLP make your manifesting more powerful? It can, for sure. Laura Thompson says, I think you demonstrate the increased power of spinning in the 2-part video that you did with Master Ed Lake. It's quite possible that I did. I blew Ed's mind at, I was teaching a killer influence class, and then I was teaching a unlimited lover class. And Ed was at both classes, and I showed him stuff with spinning. This was back like almost 10 years ago. Blew his fucking mind. He was insane. He was insane. Any trick to using wave energy masterfully in Systema? Yeah, actually. But I can't talk about it on here because I need a partner, and you need to feel it. Yeah, there's a lot of cool things I could teach you about wave energy, but I can't do it on this format, not effectively. What work of yours, real world regression? So what works of yours is best for sexual trauma, real world regression, starting with identity by design? Thank you, Benjamin. Why Him, Why Her was written by Dr. Helen Fisher. Brilliant woman. Jalima Hansen, Why Him, Why Her? Very good. As a follow-up question on the control room, do you have any good resources or courses for that? Start with identity by design. We have a lot of that. Also, if you get a copy of Richard Bandler's Design Human Engineering, a lot of what he does in DHE is about creating control systems in a person's subconscious. Do you explain this in a YouTube video, dopamine? I think I do. I don't think I do it on any public YouTube videos, but I've done it several times in my AMAs. I've done it several times in some of my mastermind groups, which meet on the 3rd Saturday of every month. And I've definitely done it in in all the Soulmate Secrets classes that I've done. It's a relatively new discovery for me because there's actually a lot more to it from a metaphysics perspective. But we start with the physical body, and those are the 4 hormonal pathways that tend to create your personality and therefore directly influence your compatibility with other people. What is my opinion about Jose Silva? I think Jose Silva managed to keep self-hypnosis alive when it was in danger of going the way of the dodo. So I have tremendous respect for what Jose Silva taught. It's definitely old technology compared to what we have today, but it still works. So Brick is asking, can you use that wave in Systema for sex or digital stimulation techniques? The answer is yes. The answer is yes, you can. Let's see here. Cryptori, can someone conversationally hypnotize like that? How can someone? Oh, that's easy. Take CPI or Killer Influence. You'll learn exactly how to do it. You'll learn exactly how to do it. Genti Gashi, how can I make someone fall in love with me remotely? Please start with image cycling. Yes, image cycling is probably going to be the best place, but focus on changing yourself to become the person that someone like the person you want to attract can actually fall in love with. That would be, to me, the fastest way to create that kind of a result for yourself. What is my AMA? My AMAs are bi-weekly Ask Me Anything sessions for my platinum and diamond level subscribers on YouTube. We get together around 4 or 5 p.m. on the first Monday and the third Monday of every month. And for a couple of hours, you can ask me anything you want, talk to me about anything you want, and I'll do my best to answer you. It's done almost exclusively through Zoom. And then we upload the content to our YouTube channel. But if you want to interact, it's your chance to actually interact with me in a conversation rather than just typing things in a chat like we hear, which is the only option we have on YouTube here. If I could find a way for us to do like we do on Zoom to have actual conversations, then it would be, be cool. We do it here, but that's what we got. I did it on a podcast too, Liam says. Okay, that's probably true. Nice one. This is actually a Bulova. I got it at Macy's, and it's actually one of the best watches I've owned. Considering it wasn't the most expensive watch, so that tells you something. Chuck Summers, there's a question here. You did it on a podcast. Chuck Summers says it could be you mess with your power when you shave your goatee like Samson in his hair. Just saying. I must have missed something else Chuck said earlier. But anyway. If I took all of your attraction courses, bought them, what does Soulmate Secrets go over that the other classes don't? You know what it goes over more than anything else? Who you are, what you really want, and what really will make you happy in a relationship, and how to go about making those changes so that you know what to look for, you know what to scan for, and you have the greatest potential to get in a long-term, healthy and happy relationship. That's what Soulmate Secrets is going to do for you. It helps you profile yourself and then profile your potential ideal partners. Fernando Covarrubias, what do you think about the book How to Be 3%? I've never read it, Fernando. I can't really comment on it. What's your best for public performer? We have a course called CPI 4, Charisma and Conversion, and it's hypnotic presentation skills for presenters and public speakers. Probably the best course you can take for being an actor, as well as Identity by Design. You take those 2 courses, Identity by Design. Actually, let me rephrase that. If you're going to do for the profession of acting, you have inner and outer game that you have to deal with. So for inner game, I would do Self-Mastery Supercharger or Identity by Design. For outer game, I would do hypnotic presentation skills. And for charisma enhancement, I would do Killer Influence or CPI 1. That would be my approach. Which class teaches spinning? Identity by Design, Real World Regression, Real World Trauma Resolution, Hidden Laws of Attraction, Vibrational Influence, and Vibrational Healing. They all teach spinning. Do you know about Vanessa Van Orn? I love Vanessa's work. I think her work is great. Spiker, Sedona method is fantastic for releasing old emotions and patterns, but in my honest opinion, it sucks for achieving goals. Okay. Well, okay. I can't comment because I've never used it. John says, do you know how the minimum amount of time you need to meditate to gain maximum benefits of mindfulness and presence so I can focus like David Snyder in the least? No, I don't. For the simple fact is that I've never bothered to time meditation, and everybody's neurology is different. The way you use it, how you use it, your neurological predispositions, the amount of noise in your neurology, the amount of shit you have to clear, that's all very, very unique to each person. So one person could probably look at a technique and in 30 minutes have the secrets of the universe at their fingertips. Another person may take 30 years and still not get to first base. You can't predict. That's why it's important when you do this to take the time limit off, because the one thing I do know is the fastest way to slow yourself down is to try to put a time limit on it or make it happen faster. The more you just engage fully in the process and become completely absorbed in it, the more rapidly you're going to see results. But when you start looking for results, you tend to slow yourself down. We're coming into the home stretch, so I'm going to have to bail in a minute here. But if someone is happy and working towards something, but they don't have purpose lines, what does that mean? Generally, that they haven't found the real thing that there's a reason they're doing what they're doing that's probably going to lead to something else. That's a big thing with me. A lot of the things I set out to do, I thought I was learning them for one reason, and in retrospect, I learned them for a very different reason that I couldn't have figured out any other way. So that's usually what that happens. Can regress to cause be self-administered? To a certain degree, yes. But the best way to get good at self-administered regress to cause is to regress a lot of hundreds of other people to cause first, to know the ins and outs and the dynamics of it. Can you transform yourself to be similar? Yes, you can, but you got to work really hard to do it. That's why identity by design is so important. Soulmate secret sounds a lot like attraction mastery changed my sounds a lot like attraction mastery changed my life and marriage to that. Good, perfect. Brent Renbeer says, if someone is happy and working towards something, okay, I've already answered that. How would someone use spinning to mitigate shortness of breath? Take it out, notice what direction it's spinning, find the direction that gives you easier breathing, spin it that direction faster and faster and faster until it reaches a point where it's impossible to go back to the way it was. When you know you've got it, slam it back in, and within a few minutes, your breathing should completely change. Face reading, does the length of the line dictate the connectivity, significance of how the lesson no. When you see a line, the longer and deeper it is, the older and more amplitude it has. Period. When did you apply this knowledge in your life? I've been applying it practically from the day I could understand it. So from the time I was a teenager, I've been putting what I've learned into operation. Certainly at 18 years old, I didn't know half the shit then that I do now, but what I did know, I was applying. Always. There's no book I've written about my Darth Snyder days. If not, I think it would be an awesome book like The Game. Maybe, or I'd get arrested, one of the two. Anyway. Or shot because of the people I mentioned in the book. Anyway. Thanks so much. Everyone asked good questions. Thank you. David, you're the best. Any plans to make your products more mobile friendly? They should all be mobile friendly. At least our website should be. And if you can get them through the website, you should be able to watch them on the website. So, but if you have questions specifically about mobile friendly content, reach out to our support channel and let them know your request, and we'll see what we can do. Duncan McLeod, you make the world a better place. Thank you. That's my goal. John says, what books or sources do you recommend for those who want to learn all the neurological brain differences between the two? Start with Why Him, Why Her. That's a good place to start. You know how food tastes better when certain people just like the same recipe? What do you think? I think people's energy actually absolutely goes into the food they prepare. And the state they're in impregnates the food with that vibrational signature. In Hermetic terms, it's actually called Eucharistic healing or Eucharistic magic. Abduramandiria says, Dr. David, do you have recommendations on influence? Books on influence? Many. Many, many books. Really depends on where you want to go. Claudia Grant, have you heard of the body code, Dr. Nelson, and what do you thought? I haven't heard of the body code. I've heard of the emotion code. I've heard of this other book by Dr. Sarno. Can't remember. Anyway, how accurate is face reading? For those of you who are face readers, please respond to Lindsay's question. How accurate is face reading? PMAC Daddy, have you had any success helping a multiple personality client with hypnosis? Yes. Yes, 100% so far with my one client with multiple personality. My experience is at least one personality is a demon. That's fine. I've had Satan in my chair a couple of times. So then basically, robots can never make better foods than chefs. I think that's probably true. I think a lot of it also depends on how sensitive the person eating the food is. Right? John says, is it true that in your vibrational influence training, you lecture and show people that they were sent here to learn specific lessons? No, that's Golden Path. That's our Golden Path training. Thank you, Carl. Dr. Sarno, the Divided Mind. You should make a video just explaining what books to read and why. That would be a very, very long video. But I'd probably make bank with Amazon if I actually had an affiliate code for those things. And my wife is calling me, so at that point I have to take this and head home. Listen, for those of you who did not get your questions answered, my apologies. I hope you had a good time. If you like the AMA, please like this, share it, ask your questions, and I gotta go. I love y'all. Good night. God bless. Take care.